different. So what happens? There is two dissimilar contour and it is simultaneously stimulating the corresponding retinal point. So that time fusion becomes impossible, or it becomes impossible for the brain to fuse the two images. Why? Because the contour is not same. Okay, and that time instead of fusion, retinal rivalry or confusion takes place. Okay, so here there are two pictures, picture A and picture B. So in picture A and picture B, they are almost similar. Like there are two squares. In one of the picture, the lines are oriented at 120 degrees, and in the other, it is oriented at 60 degrees. Okay, so contour is different, but the shape and size and brightness of the two images is same. So when brain perceives, or when these two images are perceived in the brain, it is seen as again overlapping or one image on top of other. So it is seen something like this. There is a no clear contour, but it is mixture of both. So it doesn't give rise to fusion, but it gives rise to confusion. And in order to remove this confusion, what will happen? Brain will suppress, or brain will ignore one of the image. So brain will either ignore this image or brain will ignore this image, because if there is something which is not clear, the brain cannot process it. Okay, so in order to process the image, the brain will ignore either of the image, and this ignorance or suppression, it will depend on the dominancy of the eye. So whatever eye is dominant, that eye image will be seen, and whatever eye is non-dominant, that eye image will be suppressed. So retinal rivalry, when dissimilar contours are presented to corresponding retinal areas, the fusion becomes impossible. Instead, retinal rivalry may be observed. Simultaneous excitation of corresponding retinal areas by dissimilar objects does not permit fusion and leads to confusion. In order to remove this confusion, image from one of the eye is suppressed. And this constant foveal suppression of one eye with cessation of rivalry leads to complete sensory dominance of the other eye, which is a major obstacle to binocular vision. So once one of the image is suppressed, so it will not be a binocular viewing, it will be a monocular view. Okay, and return of retinal rivalry is a requisite for re-establishment of binocular vision. So there happens, like there are binocular anomalies, and if you're giving treatment, so the person start with treatment, of course the condition improves and the person starts appreciating this confusion. Okay, so it is a good sign because it will indicate that you can re-establish the binocular vision. Clear? Anything which you want me to repeat, or something which you have not understood? Please say yes or no.
No doubt from my side, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll take your silence as yes. That means you have understood everything. So moving forward, we will talk about horopter. So what is horopter? It was a term which was introduced in 1613 by Aguillonis. Okay, and horopter is basically, it is the locus of all object points that are imaged on the corresponding retinal elements at a given fixation distance. Okay, so these are the corresponding retinal elements. So B and B dash, A and A dash, C dash and C. So these are the corresponding retinal points, and they are imaged at a particular distance from eye. Okay, and when you will join these points in the physical space or in the object space, it will give rise to a curve which is known as horopter. Okay, so horopter is the locus of object points that are imaged on the corresponding retinal points at a given fixation distance. Okay, so uh, corresponding retinal element joining the object space of the corresponding retinal image will give you a curve known as horopter. Okay, Then horopter is of two types. First is Wieth-Muller circle and other is empirical horopter. What is Wieth-Muller circle? If the corresponding retinal points have a geometrical regular horizontal distance from the two retina, the longitudinal horopter curve would be a circle passing through the center of rotation of two eyes and the fixation point. Fine. So that is known as your Wieth-Muller circle. So this is again the corresponding retinal points, the A of left eye, point A of right eye, B of right eye, and B of right eye. So that way, they all share the common subjective visual direction. And if you're joining the all the object points or locus of all the object points, it will give rise to a curve known as horopter. But Wieth-Muller was a scientist. Wieth-Muller, they did a research and they find that if the two points or if all the corresponding retinal points they are at equidistance from the two eyes, so the horopter, it won't be a curve but it will be a circle which will be passing through the fixation point and the center of rotation of the eye, and this circle was known as Wieth-Muller circle. But practically this was not possible. Why? Because the two retinal areas, they are not equidistant. The nasal of this, the distance of this point G in left eye and the distance of point G in right eye, it is not equidistant, right? It is at a variable distance. So instead, it was more of a hypothetical or an imaginary thing rather than an actual thing. The Wieth-Muller circle. What Wieth-Muller circle said? What Wieth-Muller said? Right? If the corresponding retinal points have a geometrical regular horizontal distance from the two retina, which is not possible because temporal part of one retina and nasal part of one other retina is not equidistant. Okay, so the longitudinal horopter curve would be a circle which would have passed through center of rotation of two eyes and the fixation point. So, and that was known as Wieth-Muller circle. But actually, it is practically not possible to have Wieth-Muller circle. Why? Because there is no geometrical regular distance between the two retina or the two retinal points. Okay, so that's why by actual experimental determination of Rorschach curve, Herrings and his pupil Hilbrand, they showed that the Wieth-Muller circle does not describe the longitudinal horopter, and the empirical horopter curve is more flatter than the Wieth-Muller circle. This means that the distribution of elements that correspond to each other is not same in nasal and temporal part of the retina. Okay, so Wieth-Muller, he said that if the two corresponding points, they are equidistant or they are like lying on the same horizontal plane, the horopter would be a circle instead of a curve. It would be a circle which will be passing through the corresponding retinal points and the fixation distance. Then Herrings and his students Hilbrand, they did a study or they did an experiment and they concluded that no, the Wieth-Muller circle is not practically possible because the two retinal area, the temporal part and the nasal part of the retina, they're not equidistant, and which we are seeing here also. This point A and the point A of right eye, they're not equidistant. Okay, so it is not possible to have a circular horopter, but rather the horopter curve would be a flatter thing, and that is known as your empirical horopter.